Welcome back to Learning Without Limits. Let me ask you this. How many schools are truly preparing students for life beyond exams? Imagine walking into a classroom where a student sits silently, disconnected from peers and lessons. That was Marcus, a 7th grader who felt invisible until a teacher asked him a simple question. How are you feeling today? That moment shifted everything. It makes me wonder, are we teaching students or just teaching content? Today we are diving deep into social-emotional learning, exploring how empathy, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness can transform classrooms and empower students to thrive academically, socially, and personally.
Amy, that story illustrates exactly why social-emotional learning is essential. SEL is about more than programs or lessons. It is about creating a culture where students feel seen, understood, and supported. When educators model emotional intelligence and foster self-awareness, students engage more deeply, navigate challenges effectively, and develop lifelong skills for success. Schools that prioritize SEL see measurable benefits: improved academic outcomes, stronger relationships, and enhanced well-being. The key is integration, embedding SEL into every subject, every interaction, and every moment of school life rather than treating it as an optional add-on.
That's such a powerful point, James, about integration versus add-on. I think many educators hear SEL and immediately think it's another thing to squeeze into an already packed curriculum. But you're suggesting it's more foundational, right? It's about how we teach, not just what we teach.
Precisely, Amy. Think of it less as a separate subject and more as the how of education. When we teach math, for example, we're not just teaching equations. We're also teaching persistence, problem-solving, and how to manage frustration when a concept doesn't click immediately. An SEL-informed teacher would recognize those moments, acknowledge the student's feelings, and help them develop strategies to cope. It's about recognizing the whole child in every learning opportunity.
I love that. The whole child approach. It makes me think about my own schooling. I remember teachers who made you feel seen and others who, well, they just taught the lesson. The ones who saw me as more than just a grade definitely had a bigger impact. So if we're talking about SEL, what are those core competencies we're really focusing on?
Great question. The Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or CASEL, identifies 5 core competencies. They are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Each of these builds upon the others and is crucial for holistic development. Self-awareness, for instance, is understanding your emotions, strengths, and weaknesses. If you don't know how you're feeling, it's hard to manage those feelings.
That makes so much sense. I mean, even as adults, sometimes we struggle with identifying exactly what we're feeling, let alone managing it. So for a child, especially during those tumultuous preteen and teen years, having that explicit instruction, those tools, must be incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. And it's not just about managing negative emotions like anger or frustration. It's also about understanding and leveraging positive emotions. If a student is excited about a project, self-awareness helps them identify that excitement, and self-management helps them channel that energy productively. Then, social awareness comes into play, understanding the perspectives and emotions of others, which is the root of empathy.
Empathy. That's a word we hear a lot, but I think its true power is often underestimated. How do schools actively teach empathy? It feels like something that's caught, not taught, in a way.
It's a bit of both, honestly. You can certainly foster it. One way is through literature and history, discussing character motivations and the impact of historical events on individuals. Role-playing scenarios, restorative justice circles where students discuss conflicts and their impact, or even just encouraging active listening in classroom discussions are all ways to build empathy. When a student truly hears another's perspective, without judgment, that's empathy in action. It's about stepping into someone else's shoes, even just for a moment.
That's so practical. I can imagine a history lesson transforming from just memorizing dates to understanding the human story behind them, and then discussing the emotions involved. That sounds far more engaging and memorable for students.
Exactly. And it ties directly into relationship skills, which is another core competency. How do you form and maintain healthy relationships? How do you resolve conflicts constructively? These aren't skills that magically appear. They need to be modeled, practiced, and refined. When students feel safe and supported in their classroom environment, they're more likely to take risks, ask for help, and collaborate effectively. That's a huge academic benefit right there.
It makes perfect sense. If you're constantly worried about being judged or don't know how to communicate your needs, you're going to hold back, and that directly impacts learning. So, let's talk about the educators. How are teachers being supported to implement SEL? Is this something that's taught in teacher training programs now, or is it more of an ongoing professional development issue?
It's increasingly being integrated into pre-service teacher education programs, which is fantastic. However, for the majority of current educators, it's often through professional development. And it's crucial that this PD isn't just a one-off workshop. It needs to be ongoing, collaborative, and provide practical strategies. Teachers also need support in developing their own SEL competencies. You can't effectively teach self-management if you're constantly overwhelmed and stressed yourself, you know?
Learning today. That's a powerful and often overlooked point. Teacher well-being. If teachers are burning out, how can they possibly pour into their students in this way? It seems like SEL needs to be a school-wide commitment, from the administration all the way down to every classroom.
Absolutely, it has to be a systemic approach. When leadership champions SEL, providing resources, time for professional learning communities, and modeling these skills themselves, it creates a very different school culture. I've seen schools where the principal starts staff meetings with a check-in, asking everyone to share one word about how they're feeling. It seems small, but it models self-awareness and social awareness, showing that everyone's emotional state matters.
That's a beautiful example of integration at the leadership level. It trickles down, setting the tone. I'm curious, James, what are some of the biggest challenges schools face when trying to implement SEL, and what are some creative ways you've seen them overcome these hurdles?
One of the biggest challenges, as we touched on, is time and curriculum pressure. Schools often feel like there simply isn't enough time in the day. Another is buy-in from all stakeholders. Sometimes parents might not understand what SEL is or why it's important, or some teachers might feel it's fluffy or outside their domain. Overcoming these requires clear communication and demonstrating impact. For the time issue, successful schools embed SEL into existing routines. For example, instead of a separate SEL lesson, a morning meeting could incorporate a gratitude share or emotion check-in. For a science project, students might be explicitly asked to reflect on how they managed disagreements within their group, or how they persevered when an experiment failed, connecting academic learning directly to SEL skills.
So it's about making those connections explicit, not just expecting students to implicitly learn these skills, but calling them out and validating them as part of the learning process. That's really smart. What about the fluffy perception? How do you address that skepticism?
You address it with data and real-world examples. Studies consistently show that SEL programs lead to significant improvements in academic performance, better attendance, fewer disciplinary issues, and higher graduation rates. But beyond the numbers, it's about sharing stories like Marcus's. It's showing how a child who once struggled to connect now thrives, or how a student who used to act out now has strategies to calm themselves and communicate their needs. These are tangible, life-changing outcomes, not fluffy at all.
That's incredibly compelling. The long-term impact on a student's life. We're not just talking about getting better grades, we're talking about becoming a more resilient, empathetic, and ultimately, a happier human being. How does SEL help students navigate the complexities of our increasingly digital and interconnected world?
That's a critical point, Amy. In an age of constant digital interaction, cyberbullying, and information overload, SEL skills are more vital than ever. Responsible decision-making, for instance, is crucial when navigating online interactions, discerning credible information, and understanding the digital footprint they leave. Social awareness helps them understand the impact of their online comments, and empathy allows them to consider the feelings of others, even when they can't see their faces. It's about developing a strong internal compass in a world that can often feel disorienting.
A strong internal compass. I love that analogy. It gives students the tools to pause, reflect, and make choices aligned with their values, rather than just reacting impulsively, which is so easy to do online. What about self-management in the context of academic pressure? Students today face immense pressure, whether it's from standardized tests, college applications, or just the sheer volume of schoolwork.
Absolutely. Self-management skills are paramount here. These include stress management techniques, goal setting, organizational skills, and even just simple mindfulness practices. When students learn to recognize the signs of stress, they can employ coping strategies before they become overwhelmed. Teaching them how to break down large tasks, prioritize, and manage their time effectively isn't just about being organized. It's about reducing anxiety and fostering a sense of control over their academic journey. It empowers them, rather than making them feel like victims of the system.
Empowerment. That's a recurring theme here, and it's so important. It sounds like SEL isn't just about preventing negative outcomes, but actively cultivating positive ones. Flourishing, thriving. Can you share a specific example of a school or a classroom where you've seen SEL truly make a palpable difference?
Certainly. I worked with an elementary school that had really struggled with behavioral issues and playground conflicts. The teachers felt like they were constantly mediating disputes. They decided to implement a school-wide SEL focus. They started with daily morning meetings where each class would do an emotional check-in and share something positive. They taught specific I statements for conflict resolution and had peace corners in classrooms where students could go to self-regulate. Within 2 years, disciplinary referrals dropped by almost 40%. The principal told me the biggest change wasn't just fewer fights but a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Students were helping each other, showing more kindness, and teachers reported feeling less drained because they were spending less time on behavior management and more time teaching. It became a community, not just a collection of individuals.
That's a phenomenal transformation. 40% is huge. And it speaks volumes to the idea that when you address the emotional and social needs, the academic and behavioral aspects naturally improve. It's not a distraction from academics, it's a foundation for them.
Exactly. And it's a sustainable change because the students are internalizing these skills. They're not just being told what to do, they're learning how to be. They're developing a toolkit for life, not just for school. And that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To prepare them for life beyond exams, as you said at the beginning.
It absolutely is. That story about Marcus, feeling invisible and then being seen, it's really the essence of what we're talking about. Every child deserves to feel seen, to feel understood, and to have the tools to navigate their world effectively. Dr. Cham, this conversation has been incredibly insightful and truly inspiring. Thank you for shedding such a clear light on the profound impact of social-emotional learning.
Thank you, Amy, for having me. It's a topic I'm deeply passionate about, and I truly believe that by prioritizing SEL, we're not just changing classrooms, we're shaping a more empathetic, resilient, and collaborative future for all our children.
And that's a future worth investing in. To all our listeners, thank you for joining us on Learning Without Limits. We hope this episode has given you plenty to think about regarding how we can empower students through empathy, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep fostering those vital connections. Goodbye for now.